Welcome, everybody, to the show. My name is Stuart Davis, your host of A Flawed Man of God, because I am a flawed man of God, a humble parishioner adjusting his camera at a church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. Not a pastor, not a biblical scholar. I haven't been to seminary. Not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about the Bible, talk about Christianity. Talk about a wide variety of different topics, issues, and current events, and give you my perspective on them, one that I think is reflective of your average Christian guy. I've been a Christian all my life, 41 years, non-denominational Protestant. Won't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word daily, trying to do it better each and every day. Sometimes I'll get it right, many times I'll get it wrong, but no matter what, if you are listening to this show, if you hear me talk while I'm streaming here, you're going to be getting my honest takes and opinions on whatever it is we're talking about. So, if you are somebody who is interested in learning more about Christianity, maybe you are searching for meaning in life, you're wondering, what is faith all about? You realize there's something missing in who you are. Maybe there's a small voice in the back of your mind wondering if there is more to life than just your existence here on earth. And if that's the case, welcome. Glad to have you here. We are happy to have you. And hopefully, if you are somebody who's seeking for answers, this is where you'll find what you want. Find what you need, and it will get you started on a path to salvation. Because what you're going to get here is real, and it's going to be straight from the guy sitting next to you in the pew. If you are already a Christian and you just enjoy Christian topics and discussions, welcome as well. Glad to have you here. You'll find we run this very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school. Very tight-knit, very small community right now, at least. Has been for a while. Don't mind if it stays that way. But we want to hear from you. We got a great group of folks in the chat. We'd like you to be one of them. Doesn't matter if you're new to Christianity or if you've been one longer than I have. You're smarter than me about the faith. You more mature in your faith than I am. Does not, somewhere in between, doesn't matter. Get in there. Get in that chat. Join this group and give us your opinion. Let us know what you're thinking. What am I getting right? What am I getting wrong? What do you have as far as unique inexperience or insight that you might want to add to the discussion? I want to hear from you. It makes the show better. So, without any further ado, let's get into the show. Thad the Man first in the chat. I was so tired today. That was me Tuesday. Was that yesterday? Tuesday. Yeah, after a 3-hour show, it's tough. Felt worthless at work, like not productive. Guy was getting some stuff done, but not as much as I could. Today, much different. Very productive. Overly productive. Excellent. Always a good feeling when you're getting a lot accomplished. Lucy, Evening Star. Well, I'm not first, but second is far from the worst. In fact, some would say first is the worst and second is the best. How's it going, sir? Serranos, it's Stu in the pew, as Blaine said. Carl, the Carl you know and love. You got family in Pennsylvania country? I don't have family in Pennsylvania or in Pennsylvania County. Sorry, Pennsylvania County. No, and not Pennsylvania either. No, most of my family is almost exclusively in and around the Central Virginia area. Some north of the James, some south of the James, some in North Carolina. Had a cousin of mine recently move out to Seattle. But we're all mostly around here in these here parts. In these here parts. Steve Hawley, I'm wondering how to work Discord. It's a messenger app. It's a messenger app, basically. Alex Moore said, nice. I get home from a dinner date and there are streams. Of course, sir. Hope your dinner date went well. Thad Manson, I mean, not replying to Nikki Haley and breaking my Lenten oath. Stay there. Hold fast. Fasting. Speaking of holding fast, fasting is going to kill me. This morning, I'm like, oh, I have some toast, an English muffin with butter, and some jam. That'll do. Lunch, crackers, and cheese. Dying. And then apparently no meat on Ash Wednesday, as practiced. So peanut butter and jellies, 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and a ton of chips and salsa. that's good living for me. I like to eat. Fasting is difficult. It's a difficult thing for me. Not I don't think that's hardcore fasting, but that's just what I was told that you're supposed to do. I thought fasting, I don't know. I've never really done the food fasting. So, um Steve Hawley said, one in Michigan? Yeah, close enough. Family in Michigan. One from Michigan, too. The Carl, you know, and loves it. Seattle's a nice area. We have a friend of the show who has his own stream that happens after this. It's completely different topic, but Blaine's Escape Corner. He is a Seattle resident and or a Seattle area resident, and he is a good dude. Um, Lucy said, Seattle, much like all cities, are demon country, hoping it goes well for them. Seattle's a nice area. Seattle's demon country, like all of the cities. I'm a country boy myself, so cities make me nervous. Carl said, I went all the time when stationed at JBLM. Fort Lewis is the one out in Washington that I'm familiar with. What is that? Joint Base? What? Joint Base Lewis McChord. Okay, yeah. I never flew in there, so that's why. I'm trying to think of because when we did we were in Fort Dix. It was Dix McGuire. So long ago. Forgetting all this stuff. Yeah. Okay. McGuire Dix, Lakehurst. Yeah. Joint Base. JB MD. They can get rid of the Dix part, but it really is. It sucks there. It sucks there in New Jersey. For Catholic related sects, it's more abstinence than fasting. Yeah, to me, it's doing something, whatever. Here, Fort Lewis is really nice. I've heard it's really nice as far as the area, kind of like what you said. It's pretty country out there. I had one of my instructors in tango school was he was stationed there, and he was stationed up at Fort Wainwright, and he said the view was great both places. Lucy says, is there anyone in the good chat at Dream Interactions? Interactions or interpretations? I'm not good at either of them. That said, cities are becoming towers of Babel, or Tower of Babels. Towers of Babel, I think that. Isaac Asimov wrote a very good book called The Caves of Steel, which was supposed to describe future cities. No, I think isn't dream interpretation supposed to be a spiritual gift? Anybody here have a coat of many colors? Multicolored coat or jacket that maybe you were the 12th born or you were the 10th or 11th born son, favored, maybe sold into slavery by your brothers. Eh, no. Pray on it, Lucy. Pray on it. All right. So started that today. We're not going to do a whole lot of small talk before we get into the show proper, but started reading the book that I replaced with my Warhammer reading for Lent. The pulling it up right now. 2000 Years of Christ's Power, Volume 1. Very interesting. It starts off basically, um, here's Rome. Here's the setting in Rome. Here's the background on the Hebrews, Israelites, Jews. Here's a description of the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the um, the Zealots, and I can't remember the last one. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's basically one of the communities where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they're like toe communists, like before communism was a thing. Apparently, they were communist because they were communist. They thought of women as temptresses and didn't have any girlfriends. Assassines, Assassines. It almost sounds like assassins, but they're actually like the opposite. They don't. They're very peaceful, incredibly peaceful. Didn't marry. Didn't have anything to do with the ladies. Sounds like a real, for lack of a better word, sausage fest. But I guess they had their mean. I don't know. Like I said, we got the Dead Sea Scrolls out of it, so that was good. Um, yeah, but it's been very interesting to see. It's talking about the how the church started to build up with Christ's. They said between in the 3 days between Christ's crucifixion and his resurrection, or when the between Christ's news of Christ's crucifixion reached his followers and news of his resurrection reached them, it it was completely falling apart because, well, if Christ doesn't defeat death, he isn't the Messiah. He isn't God. He doesn't have that power. So there's no reason to follow him at that point. But once he resurrects, once he's walking around giving instructions, then the whole equation changes, right? It goes all the way back to the prophecies. It fulfills them. And so now you know. But it talks about how the split happened between the Hellenists and the um, Palestinian Jews. Um, it talks about a lot of dynamics there. Kind of helps you understand what the political and religious situation is going on during when the God during the very end of the prophesying, very end of the Old Testament and the Gospels going into Acts and even into Revelation. They they have mentioned Caligula, Nero a ton, Pilate, obviously. What happens to Pilate apparently? He ended up being. I know ends up getting put into exile. I don't know if he ends up getting executed though. I can't remember. But very cool so far, and I'm not even close to halfway through it. I mean, I just started on it today. It's like I said, very interesting read so far. If you guys got a chance to get to pick it up, I'd love to hear what you all are getting out of it. It's very good reading. This was recommended by the other Paul, who is a another friend of the show. He's got his own channel, The Other Paul, which is a much more scholastic, much more scholarly approach to doctrines, disciplines, understandings, debates between Roman Catholicism and High Church, Protestants, Orthodoxy, that kind of stuff. He's a good dude. And so I went to him because I knew he'd probably find something for me. He said he hasn't read this yet, but he's heard good things. So I'll be able to give him more good reviews, at least how it started. Now we don't know. Could come off the rails. Wouldn't be the first time. Missed the name. Can you say it again in chat? Yeah, I had it right up here. "2,000 Years of Christ's Power" by Nick Needham. I'll put it in the chat. And that is, I think that is Thad the Man. Yes, it is 5 volumes. And I'm just started volume 1. And this volume 1's covering the early church and the early church fathers. So right now he's setting the stage of, look, this is where the early church fathers are going to be picking up. This is where the Bible is kind of leaving off. And what we don't see in the Bible, but what references back to it and how the church ends up going forward. And I mean, I couldn't think of a better way to do it. And the guy says in the foreword, there's a lot of, and it's what he says in the foreword is precisely what I was looking for. He said, there's two types of books that look at true Christian history. The ones that are very educational, textbook style, they're super boring. If you're not an academic, it's not talking to you in a way that you're really going to understand. It's geared towards academics using academic style prose and writing, which is boring. Boring. And the other half are usually poorly done and written like you're talking to a child. This is more of a kind of like how I like this show being a conversational discussion or instructional guide to what was going on. So Matt Felty said, my men's group called off for Valentine's Day. Give your thanks to your missus from us for allowing your time this evening. She is exhausted. We're not big on Valentine's Day. We have other times that we like to get together and celebrate. Valentine's Day has never been a big one on our calendar, so it's not that big of a deal. But she has been like I said, she's got her own business, and sometimes that means being a leader uh, with your employees and getting your hands dirty and in the thick of it to show them that you are not above um, doing the work that you ask them, and that is sometimes tiring, and it sometimes throws your schedule off. So I sent her off to go night night like an hour and a half ago. Mods are gone. Time to talk about God. But yes, I'll pass that along with my other. I did wish her a happy Valentine's Day. So let's get into it. Share screen. Boom. Yeah, we did 80 last time. 81 and 82 is tonight. I think they're both pretty short. So we'll see how long this stream lasts. As usual, you guys can make it. You guys can help add to the content. Just one more housekeeping thing. In about a couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing some work stuff that's going to give me some obligations that at times where I'm not going to be able to stream. So I think that will be most of the week. I will not be able to stream, but we'll see. We'll have to see. So mine's not even home from work yet. It ain't easy. Lucy said, I had a dream about seeing a fiery cross in the sky. Then just today, I looked out my window and the sun shone through my window in the shape of a cross. Sure wasn't the sun shining through your window and trying to wake you up. God's wake up call. Psalm 81, an appeal for Israel's repentance. To the chief musician on an instrument of Gath. I don't know what that is. Let me see. It's got a. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. All right. On an instrument of Gath, a psalm of Asaph. So you know it's going to be good. Sing aloud to God our strength. Make a joyful shout to the God of Jacob. Raise a song and strike the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the lute. Blow the trumpet at the time of the new moon, at the full moon on our solemn feast day. For this is a statute for Israel, a law of the God of Jacob. This he established in Joseph as a testimony when he went through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language I did not understand. I removed his shoulder from the burden, his hands were freed from the baskets. You called in trouble, and I delivered you. I answered you in the secret place of thunder. I tested you at the waters of Meribah. Selah. Hear, O my people, and I will admonish you. O Israel, if you will listen to me, there shall be no foreign God among you, nor shall you worship any foreign God. I am the Lord, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Open your mouth wide, and I will fill it. But my people would not heed my voice, and Israel would have none of me. So I gave them over to their own stubborn heart to walk in their own counsels. Oh, that my people would listen to me, that Israel would walk in my ways. I would soon subdue their enemies and turn my hand against their adversaries. The haters of the Lord would pretend submission to him, but their fate would endure forever. He would have fed them also with the finest of wheat, and with honey from the rock, I would have satisfied you. Nice. So this one seems pretty straightforward. Asaph has been, at least the ones we've been reading recently, lots of psalms referencing the exile, referencing Israel doing what they shouldn't have. Israel asking for forgiveness. Asaph asking for, pleading for forgiveness. They've been scattered. They've been conquered. They've been humiliated. They've been murdered and oppressed. There are people who want their entire race dead. We know that from Ruth when we read Ruth. Boop. No, wait, Esther. When we read Esther, Ruth, Esther. Sing a song, sing aloud to God our strength, make a joyful shout to the God of Jacob. Raise a song and strike the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the lute. Blow the trumpet at the time of the new moon, at the full moon, on our solemn feast day, for this is a statute for Israel, a law of the God of Jacob. So sing loud, sing proud. Remember this day. It's a day of feast. It's a day of understanding the law, understanding God's commandments. This he established in Joseph as a testimony when he went through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language I did not understand. Lucy says, language he didn't understand, Enochian. So now we're going to talk about what God said. Lucy said, we could use these Psalms for America right now. We could use a lot of Psalms for America. We could use a lot of the Bible for America right now. We are in language he didn't understand, Dutch. Language he didn't understand, Navajo. Language he didn't understand, Cockney. Enochian is the language of the angels. What's going on, Yex? We're just finishing up the first. Well, we just finished the first reading. Now we're reviewing. Here's where we start to talk about what God said. The reminder of why an appeal for Israel's repentance. Now, this is different from what we've seen in the last few Psalms from Asaph. A lot of Asaph Psalms recently that we have been reading has been pleading to God to forgive Israel, to forgive his people, that he has made his point. God, you've he's we've been beaten down. Uncle, stop being mad at us. Stay your hand. Restore us to what you were. We we are your people. We want to come home. We want you to we want you to lead us there. We want you to restore us. And Asaph speaks for probably, right, the righteous folks who truly do. And I think Asaph really recognizes that God's punishment and scattering of the Hebrews and of the Jews um, was brought on by our own misbehaving, our own mistakes and sins. And God had to just say, it's time to make an example out of you. They had forgotten so much that was important. They had forgotten so much of what their identity was supposed to be. They had forgotten so much of the covenant. But Asaph will remind them, hear, O my people, and I will admonish you. Oh, wait, I skipped the first part, or part above that. I removed his shoulder from the burden. His hands were freed from the baskets. You called in trouble, and I delivered you. I answered you in the secret place of thunder. I tested you at the waters of Meribah. Meribah, 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 Meribah. It was a testing place during the Exodus. Okay. Hear, O my people, and I will admonish you. O Israel, if you will listen to me, there shall be no foreign God among you, nor shall you worship any foreign God. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Open your mouth wide, and I will fill it. I thought that was what it was referring to, Thad, but I wasn't sure. That's why I looked it up. Thad said that's where they didn't have water for days, and Moses struck a rock to produce water. In this part of the psalm, it really discusses Israel's biggest problem, it seems. Reading through Joshua, not so much. Reading through Judges, reading through Ruth, Samuel, the Samuels, the Kings, the Chronicles. What's the overlap? What is a constantly recurring theme? You'll hear Baal, you'll hear Asherah poles, you'll hear high places, worshiping foreign gods. So bad. This was so systemic and pervasive in Israel that Solomon was doing this. Because he had some concubine thoughts in the kingdom, poisoning his mind. But God couldn't have been clearer. This was so pervasive that even, I mean, right after being delivered from the Egyptians, God asked Moses to come chill with him for a bit on Mount Sinai so they can discuss important matters. The same people who just witnessed God through an old man, split the Red Sea so that they could pass and then collapse it on their enemy's pursuing army. It didn't take them but a matter of days before they were hedonistically participating in orgies, melting down their gold, and making cows to worship. Baby cows. It is a constant problem, and it is a absolute surefire way to remove yourself from God is to worship demons and imaginary objects and golden baby cows. You want to appreciate good livestock? Eat a hamburger. Smoke a brisket. God approves of that. An aroma pleasing to the Lord. But when you follow somebody who isn't God, you're following something that is not God. It is not truth. It is not good or wholesome. Lucy said, "This country used to be one founded on the principles of faith and of God and the Bible. We are now trying to tear them down. Not just now. We've been done trying to tear them down. Our people worship false idols and have done great evil. We have that, and we have priorities that act almost like false idols and gods. We put sports ahead of God. We put video games ahead of God. We put our own desires and hedonism ahead of God. We want to sleep in. We don't want to go to church. I got to get up. I want to rest. It's a day of rest, right? I don't have to go to God. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to go to church. I don't want to be told that I'm doing things that I shouldn't be. We put ourselves up as false idols. We put Bill Nye up as a false idol. Stephen Hawking, Richard Dawkins, the cringiest of Redditors will find people to worship. We're not that different from the Israelites. We're just more subtle. For now. But I think that there are some folks in society that are driving part of American culture into something more outright. Good one, Yex. A lot of folks worship their pastors, not going to lie. You have the obvious ones. Joel Osteen in the news recently, Kenneth Copeland, Creeflow Dollar. There are some that are not so obvious. And it might not. And look, MacArthur, he's got, he's, what did Joel, are you talking about? Oh, there was a shooting. There was a shooting at his church. It was a trans person, and there was some. I haven't looked into I haven't looked into the shooting motivation. It didn't have anything to do with Christians because it was Joel Osteen's church. I don't think anybody got shot. I think they stopped it before it got out of hand. I don't know. MacArthur is one that he's got some really good quotes. When he talks about the Bible, he usually does a very good job. When he gets off on other topics, and he really put his foot in his mouth. But there are people who view MacArthur as a prophet almost. They don't go out and say that. And I don't think that if you ask them if you think he's a prophet, they probably wouldn't say that. But the way that they cling to everything he says about anything he opines about, they're not thinking for themselves. Oh, that's right. Yeah. I thought it was about first for some reason I thought it was immigration, but yeah, you're right. It was something about Palestine. Free Palestine was written on the side of it, I think. Um there are pastors that are either intentionally or unintentionally so charismatic that people follow them instead of God. And a big part of that is the responsibility of the person listening to understand the difference between what is scripture, what is inspired by God, and what is somebody offering you advice and interpretation on it. Okay, Matt Felty's got it. No, schizophrenic, and her child she brought with her was shot in the head by guards. Oh! Dang. The child's grandmother blames her daughter-in-law. Oh, that sucks. Still in critical condition to my knowledge. Shameful. That is awful. That is awful. Thanks for the news clarification there, Matt. Go back up here and. Oh, wait. Don't worship any of them. Don't worship these. Don't worship your pastimes. Don't worship actual demons. Don't worship your pastors. Don't worship anything other than God. I am the Lord your God, he says, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. I am the one who showed you what you steal. I am the one who showed you that I made that. I'm the one who made the covenant with Abraham. I fulfill my promises. The others are not going to. But my people would not heed my voice, and Israel would have none of me. So I gave them over to their own stubborn heart to walk in their own counsels. Okay. Brought you into this promised land. I can kick you out. But I don't have to, God says, because what you have done is acted in a way that has made me anathema to you. You don't listen to me. You might pay some lip service to me. You might not even do that. You might just blatantly worship whoever. You know what? That's fine. Let's see how long you last on your own. It doesn't take long. There are wolves at the door because when you live in a blessed land surrounded by punished, evil, jealous people who want what you have, when the when there are no guards, they'll come in and they will loot all of it. And if you're not smart enough to worship the God that puts you there, that provides for you, that you're supposed to be founded on the principles of, you're not smart enough to run a country to avoid those guys. And that's exactly what I. Oh, that my people would listen to me, that Israel would walk in my ways. I would sooner subdue their enemies and turn my hand against their adversaries. I want to fight for you. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. You're supposed to be an example. You're supposed to be the chosen one. What I told you to do, while not easy to, well, I'm not expecting you to be perfect at doing it, isn't all that hard. Please don't worship demons. Just worship me. I have a whole handbook on how you do it, and it's a long-ish, boring book, but it ain't as big as the rule book you'll get when you get a person, when you have a king over top of you. No, I wanted to protect you. I wanted to separate you and show the world what happens when you do have the Lord's protection, when you do have the Lord's blessing, and how you be an example of how to act when you were given such a gift. But this is how you chose to act. The haters of the Lord would pretend submission to him, but their fate would endure forever. He would have fed them also with the finest of wheat, and with honey from the rock I would have satisfied you. Matt said, that truth from God is something I have to lean into regarding speaking in faith. Open your mouth and I will fill it. Steve Hawley said they wanted to return to slavery too because they started forgetting what God commanded. Yeah, the road got a little rough every time. It was just, and that was the big thing. That's where you could tell this was going to be a very hard. I mean, Moses at one point asked God to just kill him. If you love me, God, you'll just kill me. Don't make me lead these people anymore. It tries everybody's patience because instead of going, okay, God got us out of here. He did these incredible things. He produced plagues. He can move lakes and everything. But he did all that. Now I'm just going to starve out here. Do you think he's going to let you starve? Does he think he's going to let you die of exposure? If he's already done all that you've seen, why don't you just believe that he's going to take care of you till he gets you where you need to be? Now that is something we can all take something away from. God's leading you someplace. Don't worry. That doesn't mean be reckless, but don't fight it. Matt Felty, we're more influenced at this time again by Babylon, no? Well, I'm an Iraq vet, so. Steve Hawley said it's so easy to stray away from God when you're not totally focused on him. Yes. It's easy to stray away when you are focused on him. Even still, don't put legalism ahead of God. Legalism is sometimes used more broadly than what it really intends. But yes, don't lose the spirit of what God wants us to be. Don't lose the spirit of the law that God intended. The laws are there to create society for the Israelites, to make it work. Because if you're all working in this way, if you're all doing this with the goal to worship me and do glory to me, God, and do things as I've commanded, love me and love your neighbor as yourself, then this is going to work. Don't just go, oh, we've got these laws. You just have to obey them. Legalism is just following the legalistic or just following the law and not the spirit or the grace. Bill Nye, fake science guy. He's Howie from Big Bang Theory. That's a good one. Talked about that. Yek said, I think it's a good idea for us to clarify what we mean by worship. The Israelites worshipped idols by offering sacrifice. I don't know. I think we use the words idol and worship loosely. I'm guilty of this as well. Varying degrees, right? There is out and out, obvious, definite. I made an idol. I'm making sacrifices to it, etc. And then there's also, I have a priority in life. I have a worldly thing that I prioritize over my faith in God. That's making idols. And that's what we see more. It's a lot more pervasive. It's a lot more subversive. It's a lot easier to slip into. Because you can go, I love God. I want to do everything that he says. But do you? Or is it only when it's convenient? Thad said, you are the light of the world. Matt said, here and next, we are in the scriptures which referred to the divine counsel. As in Job, we must focus not on worshiping the creation over the creator. Same with humans that have influence, not God's. Yeah. This is a good one. I say that all the time because they're all good. A plea for justice. A psalm of Asaph. Cat's being weird. 82. God stands in the congregation of the mighty. He judges among the gods. Divine counsel mentioned. God stands in the congregation of the mighty. He judges among the gods. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Selah. Defend the poor and the fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and needy. Free them from the hand of the wicked. They do not know, nor do they understand. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are unstable. I said, you are gods. and all of you are children of the Most High, but you shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for you shall inherit all nations. A lot of divine council mentions. Chats coming alive. Divine council, DC Comics, Superman, Justice League. This one is let's see what we have in mentions. Psalm 82. Got questions, which is a Catholic site, but we use it from here because it does do a good job. It does do a good job addressing some of this stuff. A lot of stuff that doesn't talked about in Protestant circles, which I don't understand. Too much of I need to be. It needs to be tangible in a lot of the Protestant disciplines. I think we miss something, a big chunk of what it means to be Christian and what it means to have faith when you ignore the mystery and the supernatural part of the God's creations, whatever. That says Psalm 89. Let's see. What are you doing? Cat's gotten into the catnip, I think. Definitely acting like a crackhead. Amp says Divine Assembly. Maybe the Amplified missed it. And maybe it's a Divine Council Assemble. Here we go. Yex, interesting on this. The Psalm of 82 speaks of a divine council with God bringing the gods into judgment. Verse 6 referred to these gods as the sons of the Most High, who, in spite of being given this lofty position, will be weak and die like men. Because of these gods, unjust judgment is practiced in the world. The weak, fatherless, afflicted, and needy are languishing and delivered into the hand of the wicked. The foundations of the earth, foundational principles of law and order and morality by which the world is to function, are shaken, and the world is without knowledge and understanding. Who is at fault? It is the gods whom the Lord has called into his divine counsel. So here is a blind spot to me from much of my Protestant upbringing. Like I was saying earlier, we remove so much of the mystery and unexplainable supernatural side of the faith, of God, of heaven. That when I read this, I don't know what exactly he's talking about. I almost think that it's Asaph talking to God because he's mad about what's happened to the Israelites during the scattering. He wants them to come back. That's based off a plea for justice, right? Or I can go in the direction that Yex did. And I think that maybe more of you guys are. Yex said, I believe this is the verse that Christ quotes when talking about the Pharisees. It's hard to tell if the psalm is a warning to angels or members of the church. Maybe it's both. It's a psalm, so it kind of transcends time, doesn't it? Christ in that quote says, "Ye are gods," to the Pharisees, as if they are those gods. Well, one of the things that Christ liked to do, and we're all those of us who are have been around the gospel a lot know, God, Jesus is the Word, and so he constantly brings up the Word to the Pharisees, who are supposed to be the most scholarly, the most um, understanding of God's Word than anybody in Jewish society. And here he is showing them, because the Pharisees aren't taking care of their culture. They aren't taking care of the poor and the fatherless, the afflicted and needy. They're not doing anything about the hand of the wicked. I guess that you could argue that the Zealots were, because they were trying to fight the Romans, but the Romans didn't actually treat the Jewish people too harshly in comparison with other cultures. They will eventually treat the Christians terribly. But for the most part, the simple fact that the Sanhedrin existed shows you how much leeway the Romans gave to the Jews. So the hand of the wicked isn't the Romans, is it? Seems to me that the hand of the wicked would be the Pharisees. But this psalm is written long before that. Long before that. The Pharisees are, and this is something I got out of this book that I was reading. The Pharisees arise out of the rebuilding with Ezra and Nehemiah. But this is Asaph, who's writing during the exile. He's pleading for a return. Yex said the early church used books like Enoch for teaching, but they were never read aloud in liturgy. We're going to get to Enoch. We'll get to Enoch when we're done with the Bible. Yex said, yeah, this I know, and yet Christ uses this verse for the human Pharisees. Also, the word Elohim is used for a few men, not just angelic beings. Y'all be surprised. Y'all be surprised how young Yex is with how he talks and how knowledgeably he speaks. I didn't know a lot of stuff that he knows when I was his age. 10 years older than him, I didn't know. And I still learn stuff from him. The Unseen Realm is a film I recommend for understanding. Thad the Man, you really need to get the Divine Council on. Well, if you know them, can you just kind of give me a mention in their Twitter handle? And I'll invite them on. Powers, principalities, rulers applies to all. Yex says Lord of Spirits is a wonderful podcast that discusses this kind of stuff regularly. St. Augustine seems to believe that this psalm is talking to the synagogue and the children of God, Israel. I mean, in Jesus's time, it really is. Matt said Jesus could also use it as a slap to say the Sanhedrin is lower than the heavenly assembly, which also got put in its place. And I think that was what his intent was, because part of the real conceit that I think was going on with the Pharisees is that they knew they were splitting hairs. They knew they were twisting the law to serve themselves and not serve their fellow man, loving their fellow man like as they love themselves. They love themselves more. How can I make the rules work for me and not work for my community? Right? They are well educated. They do know what the scripture is saying. So Jesus knows all I got to really do is quote the word to them, and they know exactly where they messed up. And it shuts them up time after time after time. Whenever they challenge him, they walk away quiet or grumbling. They don't walk away high-fiving each other going, we got one over on Jesus. Because again, Jesus is the word. I'm getting to that in a second. Yex says, considering that the early church had no concern saying things like God became man so that men might become gods, it doesn't surprise me if it's saying that we are called to be little g, lowercase g, gods. We are called to be like him. We're called to be like him. Matt Felty says, Tim Mackey with the Bible Project does this well on this. I've heard of him before. Yex said, that's the power of being terminally online, Mr. Flawed. Oh, Thad, you said, I meant the Divine Council guy. Yex said, oh, I talk to the Divine Council all the time. Love to interview him. The Gnostics. Yex says the Gnostics do believe in apotheosis, but the early church believed in theosis. We are made more like God in the sense we become gods. Yeah, I think there is a difference between, again, this is where people get down the wrong road. People assume, oh, I'll be just like God, or I'll be just like a mini God, as opposed to the spirit of what he's talking about. God is, I am goodness, I am truth. You need to be goodness and truth. And if you want to be that way, I have given you the framework. I have given you the example. I have given you the path to do so. And what Jesus really does, and this is something that was explained to me when I was a kid and always stuck with me. Jesus didn't just come down and teach us and perform miracles and sacrifice himself for us. Jesus showed us it is possible to live a perfect life. He did. It is impossibly hard, right? But Jesus showed us it can be done. I did it. I didn't, I used faith, or I used power to do healings, but he's used people. He has used man to do healings. As he went by his day to day, his teaching didn't call upon some higher power to speak. It had all been said before, either outright or in just different words. Jesus is an example of what we could be, but fail to be. And that's the kind of that's why I said walk a life, walk in his footsteps, walk in his wake, walk as closely right directly behind him as possible. You're not going to be able to just because we're too weak. Too weak. The best of us. Moses, David, and though we don't read about it, Joseph and Daniel, Paul, Peter, all of these guys, the best of us, fall short. But Jesus didn't need any special help to live the life that we did, that he expects us to live. He just is. That's just how he acts. Wasn't Augustine? No, I'm thinking Josephus. I haven't gotten to that part in the book yet, Yex. Thad says, I think that happens at judgment. He said it could mean that priests in the Bible, the Aaron line, become Elohim like Enoch. We can theorize. We can point to scripture and we can theorize. Again, to me, it's just, that's, what's going to happen to us. We're going to figure out when we get there. The important thing to focus on now, though it's nice to kind of pause it and think about it. It's a great mental exercise. It gets you studying scripture. It gets you trying to think things out. But what you need to what needs to take priority is dealing with the here and the now and what you should be doing. So to me, it's almost never worth arguing unless somebody comes out with something really wild. Yes, he was also Latin, so he was disconnected from the Greek, Ethiopian, and Coptic Christians who preserved the books of Enoch and such Second Temple works. I think you're talking to Augustine, right? Thad said to quote Michael Heiser, if it's in the Bible and it's weird, it's important. I like that. That's only going to make me struggle more, Thad, though, because there's so much weird one. Like, I mean, I can't figure this out. I just need to focus on what I know I need to be doing and try to figure this out. Steve Hawley said, keeping in the path. Yeah, exactly. Yex said, the Gnostics believe that knowledge was salvation. Many of us in the modern day believe that head knowledge of God and theology will save us. Ultimately, theology can become an idol because this is so true. You can go on Christian Twitter and find this, that there are people that kind of it's almost, if I'm in this denomination, so I will be saved, right? We've seen it. You've been on Twitter like me, Yex. Some of you other guys have. You've seen it. If you don't submit to Rome, you're not saved. And almost speaking as if they're implying that all you have to do is submit to Rome and you'll be saved. There's some orthodoxy. There's orthodoxy that do it, but that's usually the online contingent. That's the same guys that don't usually go. Yeah, the same people don't submit to Rome. There's a lot of Calvinists who they go, "Oh, you are Arminians. You're not going to be saved," assuming that just because you believe that Calvin was right, that you are. Baptists, Um, and then you get the weirdo factions that just think that everybody who tries to hold to the commandments, that they're being hateful Pharisees, and God will spit them out. But at the same time, accepting people who have no desire to follow him whatsoever. What I liked about the movie Constantine, I love the movie Constantine, but one of the things from a faith standpoint that I loved about the movie Constantine, I never read the comics, um, but what I loved about from my faith perspective is when they said the difference is you don't have to have faith because you already know. You already know. Knowledge wasn't going to save Constantine. Knowledge isn't going to save. That's why I said there's more than faith than just believing in God. Gnostics believe that God was evil and the Sophia sent Jesus to save us. So, oh, here we go. Me standing before the Council of Bishops with Twitter screenshots of random laymen. See how far the church has fallen? Anathema. A brick falls from the ceiling, striking my head and killing me instantly. That's my favorite quote, my favorite tweet about Orthodox Twitter. That could, like I said, my favorite, one of the great things, my first argument was with Orthodox, and I didn't know that they were Orthodox. I thought they were Catholic because I didn't know anything about Orthodox at the time. So I'm going back and forth, and I'm sitting there like, this is my first experience with Orthodox, is running across Ortho Bros on Twitter. And Thaddeus reaches out to me. He goes, "Look, I see this going on, and I see that I think you might be getting the wrong impression about us." He goes, "A lot of these folks you're talking to and arguing with, they put all the trappings in their Twitter page about orthodoxy, but they don't go to church. It's just a LARP, and they take what they like, and they think what they take is based, and they do this." And it completely changed. And talking to Thaddeus, who I think is a great, like I said, and Yex knows what I'm talking about. Thaddeus is a great person a great ambassador of orthodoxy. His talking to him was like, oh, okay. Well, that makes sense because you got keyboard warriors, and you got keyboard warriors, and I can see where you know orthodoxies, like I said, the trappings of orthodoxy, the mystery behind it. I can see where um that can be appealing, but they also have high standards. There's also a lot that you have to go through, and the path of least resistance is just garb yourself like one and say the things that you think you're supposed to say. And what I learned more is that there's way more to that denomination and that faith, which I have a great deal of respect for. Um, as much as I know about it, great deal of respect for it. Um, I didn't in my first interactions with them. What a bunch of jerks. That's where I walked away. Oh yeah, the movie Constantine, one of my top 10 favorite movies. It's not in my top 10, but if it's ever on television, I will stop and watch it. So many. That demand. So Augustine may not have a clean grasp on some of those things, and being try and be trying to clean up things. You know, nobody's perfect. Nobody's got the whole grasp. Matt Felty, still rumors of Constantine 2, some pretty sweet fan fiction trailers out there that I wanted to watch. That's when the TV show came out, I was so excited. And then it kind of flopped. I think where it got canceled, and I got mad about that. Thad said, "Aren't you supposed to have the Thaddeus on too?" Yeah, I'm sure after Lent I'll be reaching out to him, and bringing him on. He'll come on. I've got a slew of things that we've interacted with that I'd love of topics that I think he'd be great on. It won't take me long, searching our Twitter interactions to find a couple of topics. Yak said, "Man, those were my first experiences too." Yeah, well, first impressions are important when it's the actual thing that's being impressed upon you. All right. So we have questions about the divine council. We see places where Jesus uses what happens to the divine council to backhand the Pharisees and kind of hold a mirror up to them. We've talked about the fall of Israel. I really want to watch that. I haven't seen that yet. This has been an interesting couple of Psalms on here. And if it doesn't, like I said, if I have no knowledge of divine counsel, this is where, like I said, this is where understanding that there is a more supernatural part of Christianity kind of helps. Because when you read this psalm, if you don't, which is, like I said, most of my upbringing, so I don't automatically go there. I have to stop and pause and think about it. I just read this as maybe Asaph appealing to God, asking for justice. Asaph maybe prophesying about what's going to happen in the church. I don't know. Steve Hawley says, "My question always is show it to me in the Bible if they want to argue about beliefs." That's the old army. That's the old armyism. Oh, you saying I'm doing wrong? Show me in the regs. Show me in the regs. And when they say, "Oh, it says this," ask them to give you a starting point in the Bible. Well, it doesn't have to be chapter and verse, but if you can give me the book and about where it is in the book, I can pull it out online and look it up. All right. So we're going to close up shop here tonight. Tomorrow night's our last stream of the week. You've all been a great audience. Yex, Dad, Steve, Matt Felty. It's been the bulk of our comments today as we all been carrying this chat well. Lucy, also earlier on. The Carl you know and love. Is that the same Carl who tunes in here from time to time? It looks different, but similar. Can't see the icons are so small. Alex Moore, Serranos. Y'all, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for participating. Thanks for being a part of the show with me. It's hard to post links in. I don't know if you're allowed to post links in the chat, Yex. Might just have to mod all you guys. Put it in the Discord, Yex. Thank you guys for bringing this conversation for stopping and questioning and providing additional insights and such. You guys are awesome. Like I said, I learn more from you guys all the time. So it's not just me bringing the show to you guys. You guys bring knowledge to me. To everybody who is listening and not commenting because you won't or you can't, you just don't want to or whatever. I'd love for you to get in the chat, but I'm just glad that you have found something that you enjoy listening to and tuning into nightly. I appreciate it. For everybody who is Thad, you have to hold on a second. Thad, you have to follow the link into the locals. And once you join the locals, which is free, that's got the link to the Discord. What was I going to say? Oh, to everybody who's catching this on replay, sorry I missed you. Hope to catch you live sometime, but thank you for tuning in. Everybody, enjoy your hump day, Ash Wednesday. Good night, and God bless. But